Hello, dear friends and listeners. A very good evening to all of you. Welcome to online lecture once again. Today, for the third consecutive day, we have with us Dr. Srikant sir, a very resourceful person who will be speaking today on literary theory post World War period. So, I welcome you, sir, once again to this lecture series. And without much delay, I ask you to proceed with your presentation for today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for once again arranging one more class. Yesterday we had a conversation with I had a conversation with Badger sir, and he asked me to just take up one more class. So that's the reason I'm here once again.
Yes.
So till yesterday, I talked on literary criticism from the beginning, from Plato to till T.S. Eliot, from ancient to the classical to Renaissance period, where we discussed, right, Sydney, we discussed Ben Jonson, then neoclassical age, Dryden, Pope, and moved on to Romanticism, where we talked on Wordsworth, Shelley, Keats. Then after that, Victorian period, where I talked on Arnold. Then after that, T.S. Eliot. Now we are on the threshold of a great, we can say, a dramatic change that is going to hit the critical world. This is the juncture from where a new criticism begins. Before it, what we had is a traditional criticism. And initially, I told you there are three forms of literary criticism: traditional criticism. You remember, legislative one, aesthetic one, and the third one, descriptive. The same thing continued till the modern period, and it is due to the advent of industrial revolution, due to the great exhibition of London, due to a propagation of a new theory in the field of science, biological science, of Charles Darwin, that is Origin of the Species. There was a kind of a new revolution in the air, and that somewhere culminated and finally resulted in a new way of thinking, a new horizon, a new sunrise that came into existence. The difference between literary criticism and literary theory, the other day I told you that I would tell you there is a thin line in between these two. Literary criticism first, that evaluates, analyzes, interprets a particular work of art or text. On one hand, literary criticism that evaluates, interprets, and analyzes and tries to trace the meaning, try to refer the meaning in a text. This is literary criticism. On the other hand, literary theory, it's a body of ideas. It's a body of methods which we use for practical reading of a text. Try to focus more that you can understand this one. On one hand, you are evaluating, interpreting, and analyzing a particular text, and you're trying to refer to a particular meaning. You're trying to locate a meaning in a text. That's what exactly the traditional criticism did. On the other hand, literary criticism, it's a body of methods, it's a body of ideas which are used to interpret a particular, not interpret, to read a particular text. So literary theory, it's a body of ideas, body of methods which we use in reading, practically a reading of a text. And one more difference that we find in literary, in between, that there is a difference in between literary criticism and literary theory, is that literary criticism on one hand tries to refer to a meaning, whereas literary theory doesn't do that. What exactly it tries to do is that it tries to locate what can a text mean. What can a text mean? How many meanings can be generated of a text? In what way text can mean? So this is the basic difference between literary theory and literary criticism. And the second thing, what we notice in literary criticism or literature itself, where author was there in the center. Was author there in the center? He's a prophet. And the reader has to wait for his gospel or wait for his message, like a devotee is waiting for God, where he can say something, a beautiful words that he can whisper in his ears. In a similar way, author was there in the center in the tradition of literary criticism, where author was given importance. It means the biographical approach was used more from beginning to till the end of 19th century. For the first time, there is a glitch. There is a change in the air. So what happened is that author got replaced by text, reader, and many more. Right? So that is the reason a new kind of what literary criticism emerged, and that particular point of time or point of or milestone from where a new critical thought of understanding a particular text begins, or looking at the text begins. So this starts with a new kind of a criticism, which is called as new criticism, and which is also called as formalism, which is also called as ontological criticism. I think this is a very important point I'm making. New criticism is also called as formal, not exactly, but of course, once again, a thin line divides formalism and we can say new criticism. But new criticism is also called as ontological criticism. Now, what do you mean by ontology? In philosophy, we have got a branch of philosophy. There's a branch of philosophy. The branch of philosophy is called as metaphysics. Metaphysics, the main aim of metaphysics is to study the nature of being, nature of knowing, to know identity, or to know time, and to know space, nature of space, nature of time, nature of being, nature of knowing. And there is a sub-branch of metaphysics that is called ontology. Ontology is nothing but nature of understanding as a study. It's a study of nature of being. Specifically speaking, ontology is a study of nature of being. So I'll tell you what exactly it's all. Let me begin new criticism, and later we'll switch on to formalism. Then ontological criticism also will talk on the way when I'll be discussing on these all the things. So let's begin a new, we can say, a dimension to literary criticism. That is a new literary, a kind of a horizon or a rise of a sunrise in the field of criticism that took place, and that we came to know as literary theories. So first, new criticism. The new criticism, the first work was collaborated by I. Richards, who is the pioneer of new criticism. He collaborated new criticism, or the work that he wrote, where he propagated his theory of understanding of a text, that he collaborated with C.K. Ogden. And together they published a book in the year 1923. And the title of the book is The Meaning of the Meaning. And this was also collaborated with C.K. Ogden. I. Richards collaborated with C.K. Ogden. And in 1924, he published a seminal book. The name of the seminal book is The Principles of Literary Criticism, and which was published in 1924. It's a milestone in the history of literary theories, from where a new kind of a criticism began. So, I. Richards, who is a pioneer of literary new criticism, he is called as the critical he called new criticism as the critical consciousness of modern age. He called new criticism as new consciousness of the modern age. It's a very famous statement. And new criticism is textual in orientation, and as well as it is verbal in orientation. That is why I. Richards is called as a textual critic and verbal critic. There's one more guy I think we should not forget, that is J.C. Ransom. His particular book called New Criticism, where J.C. Ransom writes that new criticism begins with I. Richards. In this particular book he writes, and Richards says that aesthetic state is not different from ordinary state of life. He says that you are not going to enjoy something which is beyond ordinary life. In ordinary life only there is beauty. Understood? So ordinary state equals to aesthetic state. This is what exactly he means to say. Right? So here he said a poet writes to communicate words which carry four kinds of meaning. And the four kinds of meanings, it's an essay written by I. Richards. And the four kinds of meanings are one is a sense, second one is feeling, third one is tone, and the fourth one is intention. A sense means something communicated by meanings of one particular many words. Feeling means emotions, desires, and so on. Tone is a writer's attitude towards a reader. Intention is nothing but aim. The meaning of words is decided by, he says, a very important point, I think you can just jot down that he says that the meaning of words is decided by rhythm and meter. So this particular point is somewhere taking us to understand the structure of a text. Right? It is through rhythm and meter, he says, that we understand or the words get meaning. This is what exactly it says. I. Richards is a new critic with a difference, especially even he uses psychology, right? Psychological criticism, in a way. He uses the branch of psychology to mingle it with new criticism. And it's just because of that, he gives a new interpretation of the term catharsis that was first used by Aristotle. And how that, I don't want to speak on that, just because it's not that important. Move on. Richards, this particular criticism is also called as classroom criticism, close reading. This is a particular word, I think, once again, you have to remember, close reading, where a poem is given without the name of an author and asked to be interpreted. The major influence is based on two books, The Principles of Literary Criticism and Practical Criticism. And this particular criticism, it has got the context of England as well as of US. It began in England and spread across US. This criticism is also called as a textual criticism, objective criticism, ontological criticism, formalism. Many names it has got. And even it is called as experimental criticism, because you are experimenting with the poem. You're turning the classroom into a lab, where the object of study is a text. Did you understand? Right? So he has written n number of essays. Right? Now, one more thing I think we have to remember here is that the main inspiration for this particular criticism is T.S. Eliot. And T.S. Eliot got influenced by Arnold. Did you understand? T.S. Eliot's, there's one book, the title is The Sacred Wood. The Sacred Wood. And there he mentions, or he from where the concept, if at all you understand the different ideas which he has propagated in that particular book, from there we find that there is a root of new criticism from where it begins. Did you understand? And important point, if at all you have got, you're jotting it down, then you just jot it down. New criticism is a term. For the first time, it was used by Joel E. Spingarn. 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 When he gave for the first time a lecture in Columbia University, he used the word new criticism for the first time. He's a historian of Renaissance criticism, and he popularized the word new criticism. Spingarn is the person who coined the term new criticism, and he propagated, and popularized the term new criticism. And he also wrote one particular booklet called New Criticism itself. The title of that booklet itself is New Criticism, which is circulated among many people. And his main book, Spingarn's main book, is Renaissance criticism that he was working on. Renaissance criticism, Renaissance history he was working on. So there's one particular magazine that is Formative that he started, and this is also, I think, you have to keep in mind. And John Core Ransom's New Criticism, one more book. World's Body, one more book. These two books, I think we have to remember. J.C. Ransom's. J.C. Ransom, in these two books, he desires for new criticism, a new technical criticism. Right? That is why he gave a famous statement. Criticism should be aristocratic in manner, ritualistic in religion, and traditional in art. It's a famous statement given by J.C. Ransom. Right? So he started a journal that the title of the journal is Kenyon Review. He belongs to the later part of Victorian age, and he even belongs to America. First, new criticism started in England and it shifted its all, we can say, branches or spreaded its branches across US. Right? In his book, J.C. Ransom reviews three writers, that is I. Richards, T.S. Eliot, and Winters is one particular American poet. He interprets their texts. So he expressed the establishment of intellectual movement. He expresses over there in these two books, and he also calls everyone to begin a new movement in the field of criticism. Right. So why this particular criticism is called as ontological criticism? That I'm coming back to that particular point. Ontology is a study of the nature of being, and text for new critics is a very important, and that is the point of focus. Point of focus for new critics is nothing but text, and they want to find everything in that. They reject the main aim of new criticism is to reject biographical and historical approach. They don't want the biography of the author who wrote it. They don't want, because they believe that text is an autotelic artifact. It's an organic unity. It is self-explanatory. There is no need of dependence of a text on biographical as well as historical criticism. Historical background. Now let me come back to ontological criticism. Ontology is a study of nature of being, and ontological criticism says that even the text has got a texture and structure. Right? Text too has got its existence. It doesn't depend on the author. It has got its own existence. It is in being. And it has got its own structure. It has got its own texture. But the main center of attraction is nothing but the structure of a text. And the same thing new criticism also talks about, the form. Structure is nothing but the form. This criticism is also called as ontological criticism. It's just because of this, that it considers text as an independent entity, which is self-explanatory, doesn't depend on biographical approach or historical approach or the social condition, the social context of the text. No. New critics opposed mainly biographical and historical criticism. This is a very important point I'm making over here. And one more writer or a critic of new criticism is Cleon Brooks, that he has written a particular essay called The Formalist Critic, and Brooks explains some of his articles about new criticism. And we have one more critic, that is Halme, T.S. Halme. He has written his own essays, that is Speculations, and where he demands formalist understanding of a text. Right? So F.R. Lewis, on one hand, you find that he named he founded one particular we can say circle, and that particular circle is called scrutiny critics. Scrutiny critics. And who are the scrutiny critics? This is also a very important point, and this may come in your examination. Scrutiny critics are F.R. Lewis, Elsie Knights, and Derek Traversy. So these three people are called as scrutiny critics. And the Scrutiny is the name of his magazine. That also you keep in mind. So he also calls for formalist understanding of a text and scientific understanding of a text. And the opposition to this particular criticism is nothing but Chicago School. Remember, Chicago School critics are also called as New Aristotelians. Right? And even archetypal critics also object. Myth critics also object the ideas of new critics. Did you understand? So American new criticism is anti-historicism, and you have got n number of critics like Alan Tate, we have got Kenneth Brook, Winters, Glenn Brook, Robert Penn Warren, William Winsett Jr., and in UK you find I. Richards. I. Richards, of course, he was there in England and later shifted to America. William Emerson, right? Emerson was his student. F.R. Lewis, his magazine Scrutiny that you have to remember. Derek Tavers, L.C. Knight, Scrutiny critics. So what are the aims of new criticism? That we'll quickly understand. The new critics maintain that interpretation should be based on should not be based on the context or the language of the text. It rejects. I have already told you. I have already mentioned that it rejects biographical and historical approaches. They go within the text. Going within the text is nothing but close reading of a text, the technical aspects of the text. You do understand? And Cleon Brooks' Formalist Critic brings out the ideals of new criticism, right? Later, in his particular book, The Well-Rotten Urn, and that particular word has been taken from Shakespeare's play. And two important terms we have to remember: intentional fallacy, mistake, and affective fallacy, which were authored by Wimsatt, W.K. Wimsatt, and Beardsley. And what is intentional fallacy? A reader critic should not trust the intention of the writer. And affective fallacy, a reader should not be carried away by the emotions of the writer, because they believe that text does not have one meaning. In our universities and in our colleges, still we try to ask the questions like what exactly the poet wants to say. Still, this a traditional approach exists in our question papers also. The theme of what is the theme of a particular text? That's the question we ask still, because we haven't changed our approaches yet, right? So there are n number of things to be talked about new criticism, and we have got even Russian formalism also, right? And I have already told you, Chicago School, it opposed new criticism because it gave importance to biographical and historical criticism, right? Chicago School critics, they maintained that how can a text can be understood in isolation? It has to be anything and everything which has to be once again understood in the context, and context is biography. Context is history, right? So you have got notable critics of Chicago School are R.S. Crane, that he wrote a particular book called Critics and Criticism. Understood? And they are called as new Aristotelians. So now let's shift our focus on Russian formalism. Now, one basic difference that I would like to bring to your kind notice between new criticism and Russian formalism. This, I think, we usually do not get. People believe that formalism and new criticism are the same. But there is a thin layer in between these two. What is that thin layer that divides these two? New critics, on one hand, they believe that it is not only the form, it is also the content. New criticism, of course, rejects content, but still, new criticism believes that the form as well as content has to be studied together. Form and the content, they have to be studied together. They are fused. They cannot be separated, and they cannot be studied separately. That's what new critics believed in. And their focus was not only the form, they also concentrated on the content. Whereas on the other hand, Russian formalists formalist, I'm using the word formalist in that it is indicative, it itself is self-explanatory. They gave importance to form. And they demanded to study, a very important point. I'm just trying to differentiate new criticism and formalism because people get confused and they believe that new criticism and formalism both are the same. There is no difference at all. This is the difference. What's the difference? They believe that form and content are fused. They cannot be studied separately. Whereas on the other hand, formalists believe that form is important, the structure is important. And they also believe that form and the content have to be studied separately. Did you understand? So they gave importance to form, right? So Russian formalism started in the year 1919, and there is one particular, right, institution rather. It is OPSAS, Petersburg Society for the Study of Poetic Language, and later it moved to Prague in Czechoslovakia, just because at that time the ruler was Stalin in Russia. Stalin was the ruler and he suppressed Russian formalists. That's the reason they shifted this institution to Prague. That is in Czechoslovakia. It was the capital of Czechoslovakia. Did you understand? Right? So what I'm trying to tell you is that Russian formalism, of course, focuses on form, and even on the other hand, you also see that new criticism focuses also on form, but it tries to fuse content and form together. Whereas on the other hand, Russian formalism says that it is a form important. It is the main focus of our, we can say, propagation is nothing but the form itself. And form and the content have to be studied separately. So this, I think we have to understand. So important personalities of formalism are nothing but Roman Jakobson, Victor Slowacki, Boris Aschenbaum, Vladimir Prop. Many people are there, right? Victor Slowacki's essay Art and Technique, important book that we have to remember. It was published in the year 1917. And he says over there in that particular book, it's a very important statement. Art is a way of experiencing the artfulness of an object. The artfulness of an object. The object is not important. It's artfulness, literariness. The word he uses, literariness. And two important concepts, Slowacki and Vladimir Prop, they introduce to the new formalist understanding of a text. That is fabula, which is a chronological sequence of events, which is a story, and Sue's-head, that is the representation of those events. Fabula is nothing but the chronological sequence in a particular book, in a particular structure of a book. It is nothing but the story. And Sue's-head is nothing but the order of representation, in what way they have been portrayed, and it is trying to give a meaning to it, to that particular narration. That is Sue's-head, right? And defamiliarization is a very important term that he uses even to make known to be unknown, right? By using different kinds of imagery, symbols, right? Many things, which are technical tools have to be used. And one more term I think you have to remember at this point of time is not a simulacrum, which was, this particular word was later introduced by Lyotard, right? So this is what exactly is all about Russian formalism. And Russian formalism was against a biographical approach of text. And there, I. Richards and that gang was opposite. They rejected the biographical approach as well as the historical approach. Here, they oppose only the biographical approach. Did you understand? Even sociological approaches they later attack on. Even historical. Initially, they say that we have to oppose the biographical approach. Then later, they opposed the historical as well as social approaches to understand a particular text, right? So they use the term deformation. I don't know. I don't really go into it. What all the things now they spoke on that. And now let's directly switch on to structuralism, structuralist criticism. I got 36. I have got very less time. I don't know. I just went on engrossing myself in whatever the ideas which came in my mind. Anyways, I've lost 36 minutes for only one topic. I don't know how far I can go. The pace I'll try to increase, but each and every concept has to be made clear. And unless and until you will not get the clarity of the of one particular theory, then how can you understand the subsequent one? Every concept is very much important, because every concept has got its connotations and its denotation and connotation. It has got its connection to some other concepts in the subsequent theories like structuralism, post-structuralism, new historicism. You have got feminism. Understood? Okay, now structuralist criticism. The word structure is of Latin origin, which means the mode of construction. I hope I'm audible to you all. I'm not speaking to me. Could somebody please tell me, am I audible to you? Please comment. Are you all there? Okay. No problem. Thank you so much. Okay, let me move on. So structure, the word structure has got its Latin origin, which means mode of construction. Structuralism is a human science which relates the basic structures in all human experience and behavior. Right? Structuralism is a human science which tries to relate the basic structures of all human experience and behaviors. Right? Structuralism is not only used or there in literature, it is also used there in anthropology. Claudia Lévi-Strauss, anthropologist, linguistic, Ferdinand de Saussure, psychology, Lacan, Freud. Structuralism divides the world into two units. Understand this. First, there are two units. It just divides the whole world into two units. First, the visible or surface structure which appears. Surface structure which appears. And the second one is invisible, which is there inside. It's like a big rock in the sea, which is very big, or in a river, in the water. Outside we see there is a structure of that rock, and there is also the inside story of the rock. The whole world is divided in these two units: outer reality and inner reality. Outer structure and inner structure. And these structures are created by human mind. This is what exactly structuralism propagates. Structure, the whole world is divided into two units. One, the outer structure, and the second one is an inner structure. Did you understand? And these two structures are the constructs of mind. Did you understand? Right? And this particular, we can say, school of understanding, the thought was developed by Ferdinand de Saussure, a Swiss linguist. And he gave many lectures, although he on his own did not write, or he propagated this theory in a particular book. No. They were all published by his students. And the first book, which is the book of lectures of Ferdinand de Saussure, who gave his lectures at many universities. And the book which they later, the students of Saussure, brought was Course in General Linguistics, a seminal book, which is a base for structuralism. And this was published in the year 1915. And the lectures which he gave was the University of Geneva in 1900, from 1906 to 1911. There are two approaches structuralism talks about, especially understanding language. One is a diachronic approach, and second one is a synchronic approach. Diachronic and synchronic. And what do they mean? Diachronic approach means it's a historical approach, how language began from that particular time to this. From that particular time to this. We are understanding language through the lens of historical approach. This is called a diachronic approach. And the second one, what we have got is a synchronic approach, which specifically taking a text and understanding it. This particular approach is without understanding the history, from where it has come, from what are its roots, right? In which age, what happened to language? No. Straight away, it talked the specific, the structure of language. Before his discovery, this particular discovery, there were, of course, a diachronic approach only was used to understand any kind of a language. And there is, they also propagate that there is no necessary connection between the sound, the word, and the object. When I say pen, the word pen and this particular object, there is no necessary connection at all. Mind can understand each and everything by its name. And we have conferred a name to this particular object as pen. The word pen and this particular object, there is no necessary relation at all. This is what exactly they believed in. Structuralism is not interested in finding origins of language, keep in mind. But it lays down the rules on the structure. Structure of the language is called langue. Two words, langue and parole. Langue is nothing but the bigger structure of language. Parole is nothing but the speech. The speech which, the words which I'm taking those all words. They are there in my brain. They've been installed. And from those 1,000 lakhs together words, I'm choosing some and I'm speaking. And that particular speaking, that particular act of speaking is called parole. Did you understand? Saussure called structure of a language, that is langue, that is a French term, which is it's a bigger structure. Parole is a speech act. What I am doing now by choosing from that particular structure, I'm choosing the words. There are n number of lakhs together words. I'm using them. I'm bringing it in my day-to-day life. Right? The structures interact with one another, especially a human mind where different structures interact with each other. And we understand each and everything, right? Not in isolation. For example, this is a pen. This is a pen because it is not a mouse. This is a pen because this is not a camera. This is not a specs. It's not a bottle. It's not a bed. Right? So we understand each and everything in relation. And that too, negating the others. This is what exactly structuralism says. And it also says that there are binary oppositions. Binary opposition is one more word that we see in structuralism. Binary opposition, the two different things, opposite to each other, but one is privileged over the other. A simple question I ask you when I say man and women, binary oppositions, man and women, and one is privileged over the other. I think you know who is privileged. Black and white, right? White is privileged over the black. Did you understand? So this is what exactly they propagated, right? We take the example of colors only. We differentiate red, green, and white. If at all we want to understand red, we have to negate the other colors. We are ignoring the other colors. If you want to understand red, did you understand? Red is not white. Red is not green. Red is not black. Red is not brown. That is why it is red. And we cannot understand red in isolation. We cannot understand light unless and until there is black. I'm going to say night or dark. This is what exactly they propagate. So binary opposition, one thing is differentiated from the other and known. Right? And meaning is arbitrary, they say. There is no connection. And I have already told you that pen and the word pen and the object, there is no necessary connection at all. And there is structuralist anthropology. I have already told you structuralism is used in psychology. In psychoanalysis, Lacan uses. It is used over there by Freud. In anthropology, Claude Lévi-Strauss, he uses structuralism. And Claude Lévi-Strauss uses structuralism to understand the structures of society. Right? Anthropology is social in nature. Did you understand? You're understanding human, and human is a part of the society, a social understanding. Right? And what exactly still he says? And one more thing I would like to tell you is that structuralism rejects, very, very important point, structuralism rejects human freedom, human choice, because structuralism believes that, and the focus of structuralism is that human experience and human behavior, they're controlled by the external reality. That is why structuralism rejects the freedom of human being and the choices of human being. It's just because it focuses on in what way the experiences of a human being or the behavior of a human being is controlled by the external reality. Did you understand? And once again, let me connect it to Louis Althusser. He's also structuralist initially, but of course he shifted to post-structuralism. And he tries to locate the social structures, analysis of social structures, and from where structuralist Marxism came out. And very two important terms I think we have to remember about Louis Althusser is that ideological state of apparatus, and second one, repressive state apparatus. Right? I don't want to go deeper into what exactly do they mean. Let me move on. It's just because I have to talk a lot. So structuralist anthropology, where we have to talk about Claude Lévi-Strauss. He says culture is a language and all myth of the world is reduced in one particular pattern that he calls it as mytheme. What is mytheme? You just go through it. Mytheme is let me tell you otherwise. Mytheme is a reduction of all myths of a different culture. Reduction, taking all the myths and reducing it. And his theory of structural anthropology influenced narratology. Mytheme is a narrative structure. And the very important we can say, pioneer, I'm going to say very important people of this particular, we can say, structuralist anthropology. This particular theory is are A.J. Grimas. We have got Todorov. We have got Gerard Jennett, where he practices over there even in psychological approach of structuralism. They discuss the relationship between the literature and human life. And you have got one more connection over there: semiotics, Roland Barthes, death of the author, right? Semiotics, semiology, study of science. And structuralism talks about signifier is equal to sign is equal to signifier and signified. And what is that? A tree. When I say tree, the sound, the image is signifier. And that gets converted into concept that is signified. Together, they make a sign possible. So let me not go into it. A lot to be talked on, different kinds of terms which are being used over there in structuralism. Many connections that you find in between structuralism and post-structuralism. Unless and until we will not talk about post-structuralism, that we will not understand structuralism, which is because, of course, they are binary oppositions in themselves. Let me move on. Structuralism reached its peak in the years 1967 and 68. And Gerard Jennett literature had been regarded as a message without a code, he says. And what is that? I cannot tell you, just because I think I have got only 10 minutes to say, a lot more to be discussed. Roland Barthes' essay, Death of the Author, you have to remember his famous statement: the birth of the reader at the cost must be at the cost of the death of the author. And Todorov and Lacan says it is a world of words that creates a world of things. For structuralists, a system of conventions. System of convention. For structuralists, a system of convention in the metrics in which individual signs are embedded. Individual signs are embedded. And it does not have any kind of a meaning at all. Because it gets meaning when it goes into the structure. How can you understand a structure? This is a structure. How do you understand? You understand this particular structure when you keep this one into a context. A bigger structure. A small structure is kept. It has to be kept because structuralists believe that nothing can be understood in isolation. It has to be understood in the context. If at all, you are weaving me. You're weaving me. You're weaving me. And there's a context. That is why you understand me. I'm placed over there in a bigger structure. That's why I exist. I think, therefore, I exist. Right? So here, I am there just because there are other things. There are other things just because there are many. There's a bigger structure and the smaller structure. We understand an object when we place. We can understand this particular structure only when we place this one in a bigger structure. That is why structuralists say that we cannot understand. We cannot understand everything in isolation. Right? So baby, if at all, for example, you take the word pen only. Pen only, if at all, P for pen. If I say this, P for pen. Where is the pen? See how the structures are. Where is the pen? What color is it of? What is the color of the pen? Look at that. The word, how in many ways it is getting connected to different kinds of structure of a sentence. I'm using the same word in different kinds of sentences. And it's just because I'm placing this particular thing in those sentences, then I can understand it in a better way. So such kind of many sentences can be created. And post-structuralists, remember, they did not try to trace the meaning. They said that there is nothing called signified. There are only signifiers. I don't know whether you are understanding or not philosophical. It's too philosophical, we can just say. There is nothing called conclusion. Let me put it in a nutshell. There's nothing called conclusion. There is nothing called meaning. Every meaning has got one more meaning created later. Once again, Marxism. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis. One more comes. That's thesis. Once again, antithesis. Once again, synthesis. It goes on and on and on. That is why Derrida, in his work of grammatology, he uses the word aporia, where there are irresolvable issues in it. We cannot come to the conclusions because there is nothing called conclusion. Conclusion is nothing but is meaning, finding the meaning. What post-structuralists say that there is no meaning at all. That is why that is why they attack the structuralists, because structuralists try to trace the meaning from where the structures are existing. The structures are existing. From where they are coming. Where is the point from where the structures are being established, led? Whereas post-structuralists, they say there is no meaning. See, take the example of a doll. Doll has 2 hands and 2 legs and a face and a nose. See, this is what exactly the structuralist says. Then post-structuralists, they take that doll and they cut the hands, they cut the legs, they even distort the face and take out the cotton, and see, they ask structuralists, where is a doll? This is the best example I can give you. There are many things to be discussed on. I don't know, now time is over. I'm about to begin post-structuralism. It is 7 o'clock. I don't know what to say. But whatever I could do, that I have done. And let me, just because I've been instructed that sharply at 7:10, one more session is going to be, it's going to begin over there, a general session. So Dr. Prakash Badiger sir has asked me to wind up exactly at 7 o'clock. We have got only 2 minutes. I just want you to ask your doubts, reservations. There are many things, you can ask me, whatever you have got in your mind. So let me wind up. This is the last class, I think. This is a final class, I think. I'm talking over here on this particular platform. I don't know, once again, when we are going to meet. So thank you so much. So now, this particular discussion, I keep it open for all the people so that you can ask me the questions. Anybody there? So kindly forgive me that I could not complete the remaining theories. I have could touch only the superficial touch I have given to new criticism, formalism, and structuralism. I have tried my level best to do each and everything in a proper way that it would reach to you. And the words what we use, the speech act what we do is parole. And the bigger structure what we have got is, bigger structure means it's all the language itself, its rules, structures. Why deconstruction emerged? Of course, deconstruction emerged to attack the structuralist understanding of the things. They say that they try to locate the meaning, but the post-structuralists, I have already told you that they did not want to I'm going to say, they believed that there is no meaning at all, and that's why they said that there are only signifiers, and there are no signified. There is no signified. There is nothing called signified. Everything is a signifier. Important topics for the exam, please. Important topics. The topics have already been mentioned over there in your paper, in your syllabus. So please send notes. Of course, I'll try my level best. I can't do each and everything. There are books that you can refer to.
Sir.
So please, one more class. Yes, sir. Sir.
Yeah. So I think all the doubts are cleared, sir.
I don't know. I hope so.
Sorry, I'm interrupting your discussion with the listeners.
Yes, sir.
Sir, what I suggest is, uh, and also to the note of listeners, see this topic of literary criticism and theory. It needs a lot of time to learn. Okay,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
can't be just taught in lectures which are just limited to about
Only 1
10
hour.
hours. Okay, we need a lot of study and background to understand it. So what I suggest is, of course, sir's lectures were very informative. They were very thorough. He has tried to focus all the important ideas, but at the same time, due to time constraint, we are unable to cover all the topics in detail. But definitely, with sir's lecture, you have got some insights, and do follow what sir has suggested. I mean, do read the books that he has already suggested, and he has assured that he will send me the list of books, as well as he will try to do some PPTs and send them to you. After all, these exams, all the competitive exams, they depend on our own efforts. So this is just like a guiding light. We have to take our own torches from here onwards. That is what I
Yes.
feel. And
Yes. Yes.
cultural studies or literary theory is something that we need a lot
I
of
didn't
years
understand.
to
So let me
understand.
just interrupt you. Sorry to interrupt you, sir.
Yeah, yeah, no problems.
When
Go ahead.
when you have got the nomenclature, or we can say the one particular word, cultural studies, that has been mentioned over there. So that itself is very big structure, sir. I tell
Yeah,
you.
yeah, of course.
To talk on many things, that it covers up. It has got
It
many
is all.
things into it, right? We
Yeah,
cannot just talk about culture studies in 10 minutes or 15 minutes or
yeah,
1 hour.
definitely
It's
not.
highly impossible.
One more, I think, sir, I'm just going to share my view for this question particularly. Do let me know if I am correct or wrong here. This particular question: why deconstruction emerged? So
Deconstruction, you want me to answer, sir, or just you
uh,
want to share
I'll
something
I'll
else?
I'll share my view about this. Then
Okay,
you
sir.
can just correct me if I'm wrong here. So I feel somewhere deconstruction has got a relation to the theory of existentialism. Somewhere, if we connect the events in the history, we see that existentialism emerged after the devastation of the world in especially the Europe, which was considered as the center of the world. It was devastated due to World War One and Two, and from there, the theory of existentialism emerges, uh, which is a sort of background to whatever theories that were developed in 1960s and all. For example, they want to give a statement like, we don't want to arrive at a meaning. Deconstruction is all about that. We don't want to arrive at any conclusion. This is because, sir, this is my purely my opinion
No,
based on
it's okay,
whatever
sir. No
knowledge.
problem. You can please do share, sir.
Okay, so you see, till 1945, Europe had seen lots of destruction because of World War One and Two, and all the concepts that led to Europe's glory, like their belief in God, their belief in Christian religion, their belief in one Western philosophy. This belief, it got shattered due to World War One and Two. And maybe this is the reason why the philosophers who came in 1960s and 70s did not want to stick to one particular ideology as the standard one, because that ultimately led to destruction. So I think the roots of deconstruction are somewhere in the history of World War One and Two. That is what I have tried to understand through my studies. Somewhere, sir, I feel like this.
Right. So the idea of deconstruction is that it is not the rejection of the meaning. This is what exactly I have understood. It's not the
Yeah.
rejection of the meaning, but
Postponement.
untwining the possibilities. Untwining the possibilities. Your see whatever is twined, that is being untwined. People think that it is like deconstruction means you're rejecting the idea. It's not rejection of the idea. It's untwining the possibilities.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
See, it's been knotted. See, it is not so. You just unknot it. You just see, right? And this goes on. That is
Yeah,
why
yeah, yeah.
the post-structuralists, they say that there are only signifiers. There's nothing called signifying.
Postponement.
Because,
Yeah,
yeah, post-structural and deconstruction is a part of post-structuralism.
yeah. Postponement of the meaning.
Yeah, postponement of the meaning. And where
Deferment.
that is why Derrida uses the word poria,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
it is irresolvability. There is no solution. You cannot resolve the things. Resolving
yeah,
means coming to a conclusion.
yeah.
Did you understand?
Um,
Right?
yeah. Right. I was reading about this deconstruction once. When we were in MA, it was a difficult topic for us. There was this essay, Structure, Sign and Play in the
Yes,
Discourse
sir.
of Human
Of
Sciences by
course.
Derrida. So
Derrida.
we tried very hard to understand that essay, particularly. Then one of my uh, teachers gave me a link. It was, I don't know, I don't remember the particular web address. It was very simplified format of what deconstruction is all about. So in that there was a description. They said that deconstruction is like a child's play. You give wooden blocks or plastic blocks to a child. There are different games, there are different designs that the child can create with with those blocks. In on one At one particular time it may create a building out of it. The next moment it may destroy the same building. That same child may destroy the same building, throw away the wooden blocks, and it may call this is a sea, this is an ocean. For the child, both the meanings are correct. I mean, both the meanings are not wrong. And again, the next day, if you give the same blocks to the child, it may construct a bridge out of it. So what is the ultimate what is the ultimate reality? The blocks just exist. That is what deconstruction is all about. It was explained in such a simple way in that particular website.
Right, sir.
It is like a child's play.
It's untwining the possibilities. That
Yeah.
they do not try to locate the meaning. They're going beyond the meaning.
Hmm.
They're going beyond the language,
Yeah.
where there's nothing. That is why Derrida
In
says
fact,
that there is nothing beyond the text.
there is nothing beyond the
Nothing
text.
beyond the
And
text.
yes, sir. And he also says that language is not the perfect medium of communication. See how
Yes.
interesting this is.
Yes, yes. See, Rene Descartes, he says, I think the one particular person, I don't really remember, I don't get it. I think, therefore I am. Is that Descartes?
Yeah.
Is that Descartes? Of course. See,
Yes, sir.
deconstruction, when I look at this particular sentence, I think, therefore I am. When you think, then you're understanding yourself in a language. You're understanding or trying to trace your identity in a circumference of language, because you're thinking, and thinking can take place only when you are stuck up in the language. And that is why post-structuralism says that it is not I think therefore I am because I don't think.
Hmm.
I
It's
hope
very
it is
interesting and
philosophy,
complicated, actually.
right? I think because I don't think, that is why I exist.
Hmm.
Understood.
Yeah.
Philosophically, if at all, look at post-structuralist understanding, if at all, keep this
Somewhere,
one this way.
somewhere it goes near to our own Indian philosophy of Advaita.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, sir.
Right, sir.
So there are so many doubts coming up. I think we need to make space for the other class that is going on,
Yeah.
general for general paper. So I think we need to stop here, sir. But there is one doubt which has been raised by Pooja Murthy, panopticon. You can just speak about it in 2 lines, sir, and then we can complete.
Bentham, Bentham's, I think, Panopticon. From there, the story starts. We have got a cellar where you have got, I'm going to say jail, where you have got a cellars. And there is a center, there is one particular pole, and on which we can say a man is sitting and looking at those all the people. Now, Foucault tries to understand this one in a way that how power works, right? How the government, right, has installed in such a way the ideas that something being we are being watched. That's what exactly we think. Once again, 1984. Somebody is watching. The big boss is watching. That is kept out there. In this way, we are controlled, and that is how the word panopticon comes out of the philosophy of I'm going to say the theory of power from Michel Foucault.
All right, sir. Yes. Yes, sir. Thank you so much. It was a great time we had with you, sir. For 3 days, it was like eye-opening. Like, yeah, the all the 3 lectures were eye-opening for us,
Thank you so
including
much.
me. So I'm sure that all our listeners are very happy with your presentations. They are waiting for PPTs and some notes and important books from you. So I request you to kindly provide them as soon as possible, sir.
Sure, sir.
Uh,
Sure.
Now, to conclude, I would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart, on behalf of all the listeners, on behalf of our university, for sparing your wonderful time and sharing your wonderful knowledge with us, sir. Thank you so much.
So let me just please give me a minute. So I just want to
Yeah.
thank the Vice Chancellor of Karnataka State Women's University, Akmadevi University, and even the Registrar and other officials, and even my special thanks goes to Dr. Prakash Patir sir, and even Professor Akshay Yadi sir, the Department of English, who has invited me and given me an opportunity to provided me a platform where I can just share my ideas. It's not a talk; we can just call it as a sharing of ideas. We can say
Sharing.
everybody is eligible to be assistant professor. It is not the profession that is very much important. The ideas, what we share with each other, I think that is important. So thank you
Yeah.
so much, viewers. You have been really active on this particular platform, and you asked me many questions. I hope that I have succeeded. Whatever I have taught to you or not taught to you, I have whatever the ideas I have that I have shared with you. Hope those ideas will be very much useful for you. The techniques, whatever I have given you to face this particular examination, that you can just follow them. And I wish you all the best for the exam. I hope to see you all. I don't know how many of you, but definitely some of you would be there in our Department of Collegiate Education. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So, dear listeners, that's all for today. You can join the other class that is happening. So, thank you so much, all of you.